Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kay, and today we're going to be reviewing One Piece Live Action Season 2, Episode 5. Before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and share this with all your friends, but let's go ahead and dive in. Now, at the end of my last episode, I did mention that everything they built up in the episode before this, Episode 4, it was really good. It was building towards something great, and they needed to land the plane. They needed to really hit it home to get us back into what One Piece is, and I don't really think that they did. I think they missed the mark in a lot of places. I do think some parts do hit the landing pad, but there's some parts that just stayed in the air. So we pick back up here where the last episode left off, and at the end of the last episode, I thought they were already on the candelabra, but it turns out they were just imprisoned in the wax house, which was a fun little twist. Zoro and Nami are still under the colors trap. Vivi tries to explain it. She wipes Nami's off. Zoro mentions he's ticklish, which is very strange. I don't think even under the power of this colors trap, Zoro would do that. We see Luffy fighting against the colors trap later in this episode, and I feel like Zoro would have done the same thing. He's a very strong-willed character, and since this is how they're going to do it, it's just probably a throwaway line. Didn't affect the rest of the episode, but I thought it was still out of character a little. One of the interesting things about this wax house is that there's a wax picture of George Washington. It was very strange because George Washington wouldn't exist in the One Piece world. It didn't bother me. I just thought it was kind of funny. It's a very famous painting, and it's all done in wax. There's a couple of other famous paintings, one that I didn't notice, but it hammers home the whole idea of Mr. 3 loving art. So I did think that was kind of cool. Then we cut to Mr. 3, and he's building the candelabra, and it's very cool. I love how it looked in the live action. It was huge, especially knowing how it was going to work. I was very excited to see it in action. Miss Golden Week shows up, and they kind of argue, where's the captain? What did you do with him? Oh, he's on the beach having a picnic, and Mr. 3's upset about that. They argue about having toys. This version of Miss Golden Week is very creepy. Kind of feels like what they did with Kuro in season 1, but it's a little different here. Mr. 3 is okay with Miss Golden Week. She threatens to use her colors trap on him, and he backs away. And that's kind of the end of that. Now, Usopp comes and finds Luffy on the beach having the picnic Miss Golden Week was talking about when she talked to Mr. 3. Now, in the manga, this picnic actually happens at the fight scene near the candelabra with everyone else watching, as Luffy gets caught in the colors trap. Here, it's on the beach. It's different. It's separate, but this is live action. Again, it's not going to be one-to-one. It wasn't odd that this happened on the beach the way that they've set everything up, but it was a little different getting Usopp trying to talk Luffy out because he doesn't know about the colors trap. The colors trap happens with everyone present in the manga, so everyone hears what's happening up front. I actually don't think Usopp ever hears how the colors trap works in this episode. He is trying to talk Luffy out of his funk, being caught in the blue colors trap, and he name drops Yasopp and Shanks, which I thought was a cool moment because in the manga, Usopp still has this idolization of his father, and it's very cool to see them put that here in the live action. I did think it was funny, too, that he put Yasopp's name first when he mentioned Yasopp and Shanks, because even in his own mind, his dad's the captain of that crew, too. So Usopp runs off into the jungle, and Miss Golden Week gets back, and she is very creepy, talking about toys with Luffy. It gave off some very horror movie vibes. So Usopp is going through his plans in the jungle, and they're very Usopp. Plan 1, let everyone else die while I hide. Plan 2, I go to try to save everybody, but I end up dying, so I'm not going to do that plan. That was very Usopp. And then Plan 3, Sanji's out there. Let's go find Sanji. We cut to this great moment of Sanji walking through the jungle looking for the other members of the crew, and as he calls out their names, he gets to Zoro, and rather than call his name out, he's, Mosshead, I'm looking for you too. That was a fun little moment. I do believe this is something that happens in the manga infrequently, but it was very fun to see. Now here we cut back to the candelabra, and Vivi, Nami, and Zoro are all actually attached to the candelabra. This part is Mr. 3's shining moment of the episode, where we really get to see him let out and talk about his plan and his genius. Of course, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine aren't for the plan. They're like, we're assassins, let's just assassinate him now. But Mr. 3 has an appreciation for art, and it very much shows in his sadistic side. Mr. 5's power is super gross. When he has him start up the candle, it's still super gross, but I'm so glad they kept it. It's straight from the manga, and I was happy to see it. Here, while they're on the candelabra, Tough Nami is back. Again, this has kind of been a theme through the first 4 episodes, that Nami has this, I'm partially leader, I'm going to be tough, I'm not going to ever be scared or anything, and she tricks them into wiping the colors trap off of Zoro so that he's more serious in hopes that he'll actually cut through the trap. This was very strange on Nami's part, but it was good to see Zoro no longer under the colors trap and actually get to do the things that he did in the manga. So when we get back to Miss Golden Week with Luffy, she's very awkward and talks about friends not wanting to be around her, and she's very strange, but in a good way for this interpretation of the character. It is a departure from the one in the manga. In the manga, Miss Golden Week is more lethargic or apathetic toward everything going on. She doesn't really seem involved in what Baroque Works does. She's just good at it, so she's there to do it. She doesn't talk about friends and all this other stuff. Here, she goes on about it and talks about her parents too. It is very horror villainy. In the manga, she actually traps Luffy by putting paint on the ground, and then she eventually puts paint on his vest, and then she starts coloring over the different paint symbols on his vest, which is how Usopp saves him in the manga by burning the vest off with one of his slingshot's bullets. That doesn't happen here. The paint goes on his face, so this is going to be a lot harder to get off than it was in the manga. So here we cut to Sanji, and he finds the wax house. This is a great moment. It's also one of the moments that I think is actually going to bring this episode down a little bit. So when Sanji first walks in, he starts looking around. He's excited by all the things he finds. He takes a drink of wine. This is very like Sanji. Hey, I found something very nice. Let me sample it for myself. And if it's good, he's going to bring it back for everybody. He doesn't say that in the episode, but just in my mind, that's who Sanji is. That's what he's going to do. He starts looking through the drawer and he finds files on all the members of the Straw Hats, except for Usopp and himself. And there's this moment where he's like, where's mine? And he can't find it. When he does see Zoro's folder, he just throws it away. He's like, nobody wants this. This is stupid. So that was kind of a fun moment from him. Now, while Sanji attempts to leave with the folders, we hear a transponder snail start to ring. He looks around, he finds the hidden switch on the desk, the transponder snail comes up, and the transponder snails are some of the funnest parts of the live action. We get to see these animatronics, and the great thing about transponder snails in the manga, they always look like the person who's communicating. So in the manga, the person communicating actually affects what the transponder snail looks like on the other end, whereas here it affects your own transponder snail, which is totally fine. But here we get our first taste of Crocodile in the live action, and it did not disappoint. Crocodile, they just show us a little bit of his face, just from like here up, you can see the scar. It looks great. The voice was phenomenal. I was very hooked with this version of Crocodile. Very happy to see how it plays out. And we got the laugh. I talked about this in the last episode. Laughs are very important for One Piece characters, and for Crocodile to have his signature laugh tells me some good things could be happening in Season 3. Then the Unluckies show up, and Sanji gets his first look at his next opponents. He drops the F-bomb, which I was not expecting here in the live action, but hey, gotta get that PG-13 rating. I think you get, what, 1 for an episode or something like that, or 1 for a season? I don't know, but they got it in there. Now, Usopp happens upon some of Sanji's belongings in the jungle. He sees it covered in red. In the last episode, we remember that Sanji carved up a dinosaur, and then Zoro was also cutting up some red fruit. And at this point, Usopp thinks that they've got Sanji too, and so he just yells out for help. This is very Usopp-like, not thinking that, oh, the only other people on this island are assassins. Let me just yell out to everybody that I'm scared and I need some help. That's Usopp. Now, Usopp, while he's yelling for help, he does hear someone, and he goes and finds Brogy. Now, Brogy starts getting up. This is a little soon compared to the manga, because, like I said, Dory and Brogy are both at the candelabra in the manga. The wax is coating them. They're stuck down on the ground. So Brogy trying to get up right here is a little soon, but it didn't bother me that much. So what is strange here is that Dory starts talking to Usopp, and he's talking to him about fear, and he gives him the speech. Not that any of that is out of place, but it's very strange that, knowing giant culture, if Brogy can pick himself up that much, the fact that he's just talking to Usopp instead of getting up and running to actually do something about it, that was a little off to me in terms of who the giants were. And one of the things that I've noticed in the live action is people will say things that are kind of cliche in other shows or media, and it's meant to be like a, hey, look at us, we're leaning into the cliches, but it doesn't really hit for me here. The Brogy Usopp thing just kind of feels a little out of place. So we cut back to Sanji in the wax house, and this is what kind of ruins part of Sanji for me here. In the manga, Sanji handles the Unluckies pretty well, and he tricks Crocodile. He tells him the whole Mr. Prince thing, and Crocodile figures out, oh, you're not the right person that I'm talking to. Sanji plays it very cool here. Well, in the show, he struggles. He and Mr. 13 are fighting back and forth. They keep crawling up, and I know it's played for humor. It also gives us a chance to see the Unluckies. It also lets him have a fight with the CG character while some of it is hidden, which means you're doing less rendering, less in front of the camera. It's a smart way to handle it. Unfortunately, it's not a smart way to handle this scene or this character. I thought it kind of did damage to Sanji when he gets up. He's all bloody. He can barely talk into the transponder snail. That, for me, just didn't hit. Now we come back to the candelabra. There's some talking going on, and there's a moment I really like here is that Zoro poses. He's not going to give Mr. 3 the satisfaction of having scared looks on their faces when they get put in wax. This is taken straight from the manga. It was great to see. I always think when a scene is straight from the manga, one of the best at doing it is Makinyu as Zoro, and this was fun to watch. Now we come back to Miss Golden Week, and like I said, she's very creepy, very horror movie villain. Whereas when I think about Kuro with the we're trapped in this mansion, it's late at night kind of thing, because that is actually very different from how the manga is. Miss Golden Week is very different from the manga here too. She also comes across as kind of a spoiled baby, like, I get my way, everyone does what I want. That's a big departure from Marianne here, and I don't really know if I like it or don't like it, but it felt fitting to that version of the character. What she ends up doing is painting the black mark on Luffy and having him walk into the ocean, having him say things like, I'm not going to be the Pirate King, I'm not going to find the One Piece. He actually can't finish the words, which I think is good. It shows Luffy's strong will. Then the save happens, and it's very different from the manga adaptation, because in the manga, Usopp burns the mark off of Luffy's vest, and that's when he's able to break free and start fighting Mr. 3. At that point, Miss Golden Week just gives up, which is a very funny thing in the manga, because again, she's a little kid. She's a little older here, maybe why they played the horror villain thing so much. So Usopp tells Luffy not to say any of these things. He's coming for him. He fires the slingshot. Luffy falls into the water. So the pain is obviously off. But seawater, Luffy has a devil fruit. He can't swim. Usopp runs to grab him while Miss Golden Week tries to get in the way. Usopp dodges, ends up knocking the paint up. The paint gets all over Miss Golden Week. Usopp drags Luffy out of the ocean. He's no longer under the effects of the color trap. And we do get this horror movie scene of Miss Golden Week covered in all of the colors, fading in and out of all the different personalities. Unlike in the manga, she is there when Mr. 3 runs away, and she's the one that paints the wax statues that he makes. And then she just ends up surrendering when she gets seen running away by Karu, who again is not in this episode, but he should be in the next season. We found that out last episode. But this is a very different end for Miss Golden Week, and it's a very creepy one at that. So we get back to the candelabra, and it looks great. It's going off. Zoro, Vivi, and Nami are almost completely covered in wax. Zoro does try to cut his own legs off at one point, which is straight from the manga. Again, when he adapts it, it's great. I don't think he cut as deep as Zoro did in the manga, but again, they're trying to ground this version a little more, so I can see why they didn't. Luffy and Usopp both show up, and this Luffy is angry. And this is good angry Luffy. Again, he's angry for the right reasons. Now, this is a big departure from the manga, and this is really where the episode starts to fall off for me. Mr. 3 runs off into the woods, which is in keeping with his character, and Usopp is left to fight Miss Valentine and Mr. 5. And he challenges Miss Valentine to a duel. What actually happens in the manga, he and Karu run away. Karu ends up getting hurt. Usopp attacks from the jungle, ends up hurting Mr. 5. All of that happens. They don't do any of that here. Part of me understands it, because in the manga, one of the things that happens is Mr. 5 creates a giant wax robot, and Luffy has to fight it. Miss Golden Week paints it so that it's got all these powers. There's this really incredible fantasy fight going on, and Mr. 3's cowardice continually gets in the way. The shackles that he puts on Luffy, this is actually where that happens, and Luffy fights his way through it, and he does this huge gum hammer where he spins up and knocks everything apart. We don't get that here. And again, I understand part of it, but this is part of what's wrong with the adaptation. A lot of people online complain and say, oh, you don't like it because they lean into the manga, they lean into the anime, and you don't like how campy and things it is. It's like, no, I don't like it because they make decisions like this where I know we're not going to get the big wax robot titan thing, but this scene felt really out of place. It doesn't really make much sense. Usopp has his hero moment, and he says, I want to duel just like they do on Elbaf, and we've got to, have this moment of honor beforehand, which calls back to the change they made in the last episode. This doesn't feel like Usopp. Even when he gets courage, it doesn't come out like this. And for Luffy to just run away and be like, I'm leaving everything to you. Yes, that feels like Luffy, but I don't know. It just didn't feel like One Piece right here. So Luffy runs off from the candelabra. He leaves Usopp there. In the manga, what really happens is the candelabra, Usopp realizes is he can burn it. He actually gets taken out by Mr. 5. He gives Karu, the duck, who's not here, gives him a rope soaked in oil. Karu runs around it. He tells Luffy to light it. Mr. 3's hair is actually on fire at this point. With a candle, they light the rope, burn it down. I get that they're not going to do that. I get that they're not going to do the mech, but it felt very strange to give Usopp this hero moment here. That's just how they chose to do it, I guess. But he tricks Miss Valentine into using her weight to break through the hardened wax. He breaks it. Vivi and Nami start fighting Miss Valentine. Zoro vows to fight Mr. 5, even though he's still frozen in wax. From here, we're going to cut to Luffy in the woods, and this is one of the changes I did not like. Luffy finds a bunch of wax statues of Mr. 3. This happens exactly in the manga. The problem is, this is the end of the fight. They put it here. Luffy hits all these different wax statues. He can't find the real one, and he runs away, and Luffy's left there with all these wax statues. In the manga, what actually happens is Luffy shows up. He gets chastised by Mr. 3 of being an only punch first guy. You don't know anything. You're not smart enough to beat me. And with a single punch, Luffy takes out the real Mr. 3. And when he asks, how did you do that? He's like, instincts. This was my gut. I had a feeling. I thought that was you. Luffy is smarter in combat. That's the point of this, and they took that away from him. Here, they just have Mr. 3 insult him and run away. Now, when we're at the candelabra, one of the things we did get to see was Zoro fire a Tabasco star. That was kind of fun. Mr. 5 starts breathing fire. Zoro still fights with Mr. 5. They're going back and forth while they're on the candle, and he can't get out. He is, of course, goading Mr. 5 on until let's do this, yada, yada, yada. And Zoro does eventually break out, and it's this cool moment where he's engulfed in flames. Usopp's the one that gets the fire going. Zoro jumps out. He's got all 3 swords. He cuts Mr. 5. That's the end of the fight. Meanwhile, Vivi and Nami took out Miss Valentine, so she's down for the count. And it's pretty clear to me that Zoro has killed Mr. 5, which, again, is very unlike One Piece. It's not unlike the character of Zoro were described, but way more killing and dying actually happens in the live action than happens in the manga. I know some people are okay with that, and it doesn't bother me if that's what they're choosing. It's just interesting that they keep making all these changes where characters who don't die end up dead. Then we end up in the cave, and in here, Dory is completely encapsulated in wax. Mr. 3 starts chastising Luffy. This is where he starts, ha 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 ha, I'm so much smarter than you. Luffy tries to fight him. He gets stuck in wax. He figures a way to break out using Mr. 3 against himself, breaking the wax. He takes out Mr. 3, the wax breaks off, and then we're left with Luffy staring at Dory trapped in wax. It didn't hit the notes it should have hit the way that the manga did. The manga version I felt like was way better. I understand, again, it's not going to be one-to-one, but this really took a lot away from Luffy and his battle prowess, and now we're just standing there with him looking at Dory frozen in wax. The whole crew meets up again. Dory walks up and he's like, hey, everybody. And Luffy says, oh yeah, I broke him out of the wax. You didn't know there were giants. Sanji's back now. He's confused by everything that's going on. They all walk back to the Mary. It's a very interesting moment, but Dory and Broggy, they're seeing everybody off, giving everybody information. And this is one of the changes I did not like. In the manga, Dori and Bragi continue their duel. They understand, listen, it's been 100 years. We still don't have a winner. That winner doesn't count because A, you're still alive, and B, someone interrupted the fight. Now we can go back to fighting and we can finish our duel. That's not what they do here. Here they go, oh, well, you know, the gods have decided that this is it. We're all at a stalemate. After 100 years, why keep fighting? Everybody's friendly. That's not really how it happens, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. Now, they do tell everyone to sail straight on, and this is one moment that's right out of the manga, but it just didn't feel right. In the manga, they see the giant goldfish. Everybody's scared for a minute, and Usopp tells everybody, no, sail straight on. Dori and Bragi, Master Dori and Bragi, that's what they say, which they don't have him call him Master Dori and Bragi here, which I thought was weird because he really idolizes these two guys, and they do Hoshoku sovereignty. It's very cool. It's not as flashy, I feel like, as in the manga or the anime, but it is cool to see that huge slice go across the ocean and rip the Island Eater in half. Now, they don't call him the Island Eater in the show, but for those of us in the know, that's the Island Eater. Now, here's where they choose to reveal the reason Dori and Bragi had a duel in the first place, and they're the ones that actually recount the story as opposed to it's something that's forgotten to memory. And they don't show us that the cave that they were in is actually the skeleton of one of the creatures they killed for each of them, but they do remember that, and this is their duel kicks back up. So this kind of makes up for what happened before, and I'm kind of okay with it. I was afraid they were going to end the duel here because of what we know is going to happen later on in the manga, and they think this might be a better explanation than the one we got. I think the one in the manga is fine, but I'm just glad to see the duel is actually still going to go on. Now, we do start to see Nami have some symptoms a little bit while everyone's on the ship. They sail through the Island Eater, and they're on their way to Alabasta. Luffy's already decided, hey, we're going to follow this eternal pose that Sanji ended up finding while he was fighting the Unluckies, which, you know, lucky for them, the Unluckies had the lucky item. How lucky. And he was Mr. 13. Man, they really got to fix that whole luck thing. Then we come back to this moment where Crocodile calls in, and Miss Valentine is ready to just tell everything to Crocodile. And Mr. 3 just grabs her and puts wax on her mouth. I don't know if he did it on it or just infiltrated her lungs, but it implies that Miss Valentine is dead now too. Again, in the manga, Miss Valentine, Mr. 5, and Miss Golden Week all hide in this little wax house because they know Baroque Works is going to keep coming for them. They're all hiding out together, and here it looks like those two, at least two of them, are dead, and Miss Golden Week is out of her gourd on the beach trying to fight against all the different colors on her. Who knows if she ever makes it to the ocean or not, but this version of Mr. 3 is ruthless. Then we get back to the ship. Everybody toasts Usopp, calls him the hero of the day. Again, they want to give Usopp that hero moment. I guess that didn't bother me that much. It's very different from the manga again. But Nami dismisses herself, heads to sleep. She passes out. Oh no, what's wrong with Nami? And we get ready for the next episode. So that was it. I don't think they landed it the way that they should have. Like I said, the wheels definitely touched some part of the landing strip, but the whole plane didn't come down with it. This adaptation has been fun. The first season is fun. Episodes 1 and 3 are pretty fun. Episode 2 was a very big disappointment. This episode, not as big a disappointment as 2, but I really feel like they built something up in episode 4, and this one just couldn't make up. We got 3 episodes left, though. We're going to get Chopper and Drum Kingdom. Hopefully, it's able to live up to everything that the manga was able to do. And again, I'm not expecting a 1-to-1. I want to be clear about that. I know they can't do 1-to-1, but I do hope they keep the spirit of the story and that they're actually able to tell a cohesive story without ruining some of these big story beats. But until the next one, that's everything I've got to say for now. Why don't you leave a comment? Let me know what you thought. If there's anything you saw that I didn't, maybe that you thought differently about, go ahead again. Make sure you're subscribed, like, share this with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Just waiting for Karu.